Hello, everybody. Thank you all for joining our event. I think I'm going to start, and I see people are still entering the event, but let me start by welcoming you, and I'm very happy to present our 6th edition of our annual EDU event. And I'm especially happy to mention that this year we have more international Tygron community members joining us than before. Of course, because this event is online because of Corona. So that's not nice, but this is the plus side of this happening. Last year's event, we were forced to do it online for the first time, but it was really at the last moment. So this time we could invite our international community members sooner. So therefore, they are also joining us today. So that's why it's in English. And let me start on my presentation. So I thought it would be nice to start with just a small selection of educational institutes that are working with the platform. As you can see, it's a variety of international people and also from the Netherlands themselves. But yeah, this year people from the University of Berlin has started, Jacobs University has started, also people in Greece, two institutes in Greece has started. So it was really nice to see our community is growing, and it's growing fast. So I think what we will present today is really relevant for everybody joining today. So let me get to the program so we can go over it. Well, first I start with a small introduction, and then we get into the presentation of Katia, Zahwi, and myself will add a little bit information to that presentation. And then we get into a use case of a group assignment for urban water management from students from Hogeschool van Larensteijn. And they are joined by Willemijn Rossen from the Water Authority Zuiderzeeland. They're going to tell about their use case. Then we go to a presentation of Reijn van Rooijen and Bart van Laatum about assignment of an internship. Also interesting, I think, to see how the Tygron platform can be used in internships. Then we have a short break. And then we go to a presentation of Josep Pueyo from Spain. He will get into how he worked independently on using the Tygron platform, and he created a serious game. So really diverse program, I think, and can share some light on different aspects of how you can use the Tygron platform in education. And then we conclude this afternoon with a Q&A, and we close the event, and then we still have some time to chat if you want to. I forgot to mention, I did put it in the chat, but this event is recorded. We will provide the event on our website afterwards, so people who were unfortunately not able to join today, to show it, to watch it at a different time. And so if you're not comfortable being in the video, please make sure you turn off your camera. I'm sorry that I didn't mention it sooner. We do have the option to put your questions in the chat during these presentations. For each presentation, at the end, we will have some time to get into some questions. Also, during the event, my colleagues Katia and Reijn, they were also actively on the chat, and myself as well, to answer questions during the presentations. And also in the Q&A at the end, we can get into questions that were not handled before. So please feel free to make use of that. Okay, and then I want to start with a small part about the Tygron platform itself. I think 9 out of 10 people who are joining today are familiar with the platform, have worked with it already. So this is no new information, but to make sure it is clear for everybody, the Tygron platform is a geodesign platform where you can load data and add your own data to create a project of a 3D world. For the Netherlands, a lot of data sources are already connected automatically, but it can be used internationally. So we also connected some data sources like OpenStreetMaps for creating this 3D world automatically for international projects. But then you can also add your own data to make your project more complete. So when you have this project, you can also add performance indicators, you can enter policy goals, and start creating scenarios. When you take actions, measures, review plans, you get really quick feedback about the results of your plan. And everything is being calculated on these performance indicators. So then you have really quick feedback, and you can use this for analysis. How can this be so fast? Well, we have our own supercomputer created that is located here in The Hague, where all these calculations are working on the high performance computing infrastructure that we created. And then to finalize this part, the Tygron platform is already used now by a lot of regional water authorities, municipalities, provinces, consultants, project developers, and of course our universities. So I wanted to mention this because I think it's interesting to see also today in these presentations the link between education and the professionals that are working with the Tygron platform. Of course, the students are the next future professionals. So that's also why we think it's very important to integrate the use of the Tygron platform in these educational institutes. Then a quick recap of our last year's event. Like I said, it was the first time online, and I think it was very interesting to see that still people did join, and the ones who did, they expressed a really clear need for something, and that is why I want to get into it now. Because today we will present to you this Tygron EDU Manual and a part of the Tygron learning pages we have created. Those are directly the outcome of the need that was expressed during last year's event. The ones who joined said, okay, we really like using it, but can you help us with integrating the platform in our curriculum? It's quite hard to do that, and we would really like to have some materials to make it easier. So we listened to you, and we worked on it the past year, and we will present to you today the outcome of it. And that also brings me to what I want to ask of you guys today, all the people who take time to join this event. Please make sure to express yourself. give us feedback, share your experience, ask your questions, so we can get an idea of what are the difficulties you're facing, what are the challenges that you have to conquer. So we can see together with you guys how we can make it easier for you to start using the Tygron platform or keep using the Tygron platform in your educational institutes. I think that is enough for now for the introduction. And I wanted to start giving the stage to Katia Zahwi. She's an intern at Tygron, and she was the one who has created this super awesome Tygron EDU Manual. Katia, please, may I ask to introduce yourself, and then later on I will add some more information about Tygron learning.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Katia Zahwi, and I've been working with Tygron to create this EDU manual. Shall I share my screen, Hansje? Okay. I will start my presentation now. And perhaps you can talk about the learning part afterwards. Okay. So the Tygron EDU manual is something I've been working on with Hansje alongside some members of our educational network over the past couple of months. I will explain all about the manual, why we created it, how it was created, as well as some useful use cases that could be used as examples for those who are interested in integrating Tygron as part of their educational curriculum. So as Hansje mentioned, over the past few years, we have had a lot of educational institutes using Tygron Platform for their courses among different backgrounds of students. And in some cases, the lecturers ran into some problems with their courses. Sometimes it was technical, sometimes it was logistical problems. For example, sometimes the problem was that the course assignment has not been set up properly, or because, for example, the students ran into hardware problems. Especially that it is a different software, and sometimes it could be challenging to integrate that into an existing course. And last year, our educational members have expressed their need for something that could help them design a better course with Tygron. So we did that, and we created this manual that is designed to help you get a grip of what is needed to set up a course. So it includes everything that we think would help you go into the right direction while creating a course. So basically, we got in contact with lecturers and individual researchers who are using Tygron in their courses. And then we asked them to fill out a feedback document. That is a Word document that they filled out to provide us with a lot of details about the courses and the content and the logistics of the course. Most important thing that we asked was what could you have done differently with your course? How could you improve your course? We also had a one-on-one interview with the lecturers, and I think we have here among us a few people who participated in the creation of the manual, including Naomi from IHS and student who's not a student anymore, I think, Max Brink, and Anouk also from Van Hal Larensteijn. Yeah, we compiled a lot of information, and we have set up a manual that is part of our wiki. It is online. And the reason we're doing this online is because we want it to be a live document. We want to continuously be developing the manual and adding more use cases to it, because the more examples we have and the more examples you have as lecturers and as educational coordinators, the more options you have and ideas. The manual consists of use cases, as I mentioned. So everything related to the courses, such as the time distribution, the target students, their level, the schedules, how the course was evaluated, and a lot of other useful details. We also have included in the manual the outcome of each course. So for instance, story maps, videos, pictures, reports, we have all that included. You all have access to it when you go to the manual. And we also have resources so that you know where to look if you want to create your own location in Tygron Platform, or you want to create your own case study. And also a guiding template that is a document that you can use to develop a course with Tygron. And it looks like this. It's a Word document as well. It is similar to the feedback template that we use to gather information, but this is meant for a future course. So this is also included in the main page of the manual. You can download it, you can fill it up, and then you can also send it back to us for feedback and for help. So for instance, it includes 40 questions like who are my Tygron students? What technical skills or knowledge do they already have? How will I link the activities to the learning objectives? Who will be guiding the students? Will I be having an extra lecturer, a guest lecturer, or will I, as a lecturer, have to learn Tygron on my own, or what kind of support will I need? So it has a lot of useful things and ideas to think about before starting designing a course that integrates Tygron. And this also is meant to steer you in the right direction. To make this, because this is the first time we are doing this, we decided to select 5 learning objectives based on the previous, all the previous courses that have been done with Tygron, and then we selected one use case for each. So we have Tygron for urban analysis, GIS, spatial planning, scientific research, and decision-making or governance. Now I will go over some of the use cases of courses who use Tygron in their curriculum, and then I will be skipping the first use case because it is concerning the urban analysis part, learning objective that the students will be talking about. Students of Van Hal Larensteijn will be talking about their assignment later on, and yeah, I will skip to the second one, which is the GIS, and that is by this is it. This is a course of a 4-week full-time course for bachelor students, international land and water management at the Wageningen University and Research. And the objective is to apply GIS and remote sensing knowledge to real-life projects. So you can choose any, basically any subject, and it could. This is a course that is like a mini bachelor project. It's only 4 weeks, so you get to experiment with a certain research topic. So as long as it's related to GIS or remote sensing, then it's acceptable. And student Max Brink, who is here with us, I wanted to find out the most effective way of planting trees to reduce heat stress. So in this course, students did not have to use Tygron in their research, but they had they could choose any software as long as it fulfills the objective. So Max had no prior knowledge of the Tygron platform. He had, of course, some experience with GIS because of his specialization, but he decided to go with it and to learn Tygron. And then he learned it on his own. So at the beginning of the course, it took him around 1 week to know what to do with the platform. For instance, how to export the results, how to import data, how to record the screen. So that he could do within a week. And then he used our wiki, that is our openly available tutorial hub, where you can find everything that you would need to create a project with Tygron. And he relied mostly on the heat stress module overlay. After that, after getting a grip of Tygron, he started working with a blank project, and then he imported the area that he was working on, which is an area in a neighborhood in Utrecht called Rieverenwijk. And then he also imported his own weather data using the heat overlay wizard from a local weather station. And he did that, of course, manually. So at the end of the course, Max was able to answer his research question based on real data and real calculation models. And that is because the Tygron platform makes it very easy to do what Max wanted to do, which is to place the trees in different layouts and then in the map in a real location and then calculate their effects immediately. Max, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there.
Thank you for joining us, Max. Could you share briefly what you were able to test using the Tygron platform and what was the most interesting finding of your research?
Yeah, so I wanted to find out which, way of planting trees was the most effective to reduce heat stress. So I had two situations. One with trees placed in lanes along the road, and one placed in groups. And I think the most sort of strange conclusion was that adding trees also could increase the heat, and that's because they block the wind. So that was one of the conclusions.
Okay, thank you, Max. So basically, you can see that this finding, Max probably wouldn't have been able to find out if he didn't use this simulation, scenario simulation that is in Tygron. Of course, you can find Max's story maps. It's also available on this part in the manual concerning this use case. And also his research paper that he created very recently. So I asked Max during our interview what challenges he had, and he mentioned the size of the project, because our free education license allows you to only select 1 by 1 kilometer area. That was a bit of he was working on a longitudinal area, so that was a challenge. So he recommends that you choose an area to begin with that is within this area, maximum area, project area. And most importantly is to also take a lot of videos and screenshots while working with Tygron, because there's no undo button. And he also recommends to use the wiki as a scientific research for the methodology section. That's because it has all the resources and all the information about the calculation models, and that could be really handy in research like this. Now I will switch into a very different use case, which falls under the Tygron for scientific research objective. And that is a PhD research in the University of Twente, called the the use case is called the virtual river game, and it's the title of the assignment was a serious gaming environment for river interventions. So it was basically to create a tool that facilitates stakeholder engagement and river interventions, and it was among 15 projects as part of the River Care Research Program. It was done by a researcher who was a PhD candidate at that time, Robert Jan Den Haan, and he doesn't come from a river or water background. He's not a water expert, and he does not have any previous knowledge in coding or in GIS, but he is a human-centered interface designer. And he worked on this project for around 5 years. And at that time, some of the functionalities weren't available in Tygron, so he had to make his own calculations sometimes. Like he had to make his own cost model, and the water module wasn't yet completely done. So it was a bit challenging. So he looked at several toolkits before he started working with Tygron. He looked at different ways to design for game design, and then he chose Tygron Platform as it seemed the most applicable for his vision. Of course, he had to learn how to use Tygron Platform, so he visited Tygron's office for a demo day, where he learned how to use the platform, and he also had another day of discussion with the Tygron team so that they can think of what could be done for this kind of project. So he managed to develop a game table and software around the game board that makes a physical game board digital. So he connected a board game to the API of Tygron. So basically, it's a physical game, and the players can see the game in a virtual world on the platform of Tygron. As you see in these pictures, you can see the physical setup of the virtual river game, what its components are. So when you move anything on the table, that would translate directly into the Tygron platform screen. For example, if the land use is agriculture on the board, players see cows grazing in the virtual world. If there's a land use that is forest on the board, also players can see trees on the Tygron screen. This took a lot of time in the beginning. It was very time intensive, especially the first 3 years during the conceptualization phase. And then the development phase took up to 2 years. A lot of prototypes were made, but there were 3 main prototypes that were tested officially alongside stakeholders who were involved in river interventions. And during the final phase, they organized, that was pre-corona lockdown, that was right before the corona at I think the end of 2019, beginning of 2020. And there were stakeholder sessions that were organized around this game. It didn't take a lot of time for that. And that was the last part of the research that concluded the research. Of course, the researcher ran into a lot of obstacles in the beginning. And that's mainly because of the expectation. He had the objective of the research set up from the beginning. So he had a certain vision in his head, and then there was a gap in what the research consortium wanted to do and what he had in mind. So he wanted to focus more on the need, which he did fulfill. And then a challenge was to connect the board game to the API of Tygron. So there was a lot of trial and error involved in that process, especially that was something that Tygron team was first working on. It wasn't something that they were familiar with. So the researcher also had to use a lot of expertise from a lot of other involved companies and other colleague researchers. He also had someone from the Tygron team help him connect his board to the API of Tygron. And then, so he had a lot of help from people who were more experts in this kind of work. So it's just because he didn't have that experience in coding or in river intervention didn't stop him from doing that. Basically, also not having a prototype. So the most important thing that Robert Jan recommends in this use case is to develop prototypes as early as possible, and so that you don't get stuck in the conceptualization phase, even if it's something that is only 2 out of 10, and that could serve as a baseline for later on, and then you can actually test it and play with it. And also involving these companies such as Deltares and Tygron was very useful because of the knowledge that they have and the experience that they have. I think that is it for this use case. We have everything that is related to this research, including some videos where Robert Jan explains how this game works, also as part of the manual, and more details about how everything was going during his 5 years of research. Another use case is Tygron for spatial planning. It's proposals for greener Hofkade done by a group of students from the University of Leiden. So it's for a course that is part of Sustainable Development interdisciplinary minor. Sustainable Development is called, and then it was basic. Students were supposed to act as sustainability experts to provide some advice to the city council based on the sustainability goals of this city council. So one group of 4 students were just randomly assigned to use the Tygron platform to develop a plan for the municipality of The Hague. They had no background in Tygron and maybe a limited knowledge in ArcGIS, but the students had had like very different backgrounds. So some of them were studying international studies, some were doing chemical engineering, international relations. So within 4 weeks, they had to find out how can more greenery and other climate adaptation measures be incorporated into the Hofkade neighborhood to mitigate heat stress and flooding, while taking into account the opinions of residents and local employees. So within 4 weeks only, the team learned how to use the Tygron platform and created a full advisory plan for a greener Hofkade neighborhood. But how did they do that? So I mentioned that they did not know they were going to use Tygron. So within the first day, they selected which project they would be working on. And then on day 2, they were told that they would be using the platform, which they had no idea what that is. And then it took them around 1 week to download the platform, and they also got a 1-day like a short demo by the Tygron team just to get them up to speed with the platform. Of course, most of the work they had to do themselves. So after around a week and a half, they got used to the platform, and then to make it more efficient, they split into two. So 2 of them were working on the interviews with the residents, and then 2 others were focusing on the importing all the different plans and scenarios into the Tygron platform. So they had 5 different scenarios that they worked on, which is quite a lot. So one of them is the baseline scenario, which is the current situation, and the other one was the municipality plan. They also added a lot of different interventions on top of the municipality plan, and then they compared the effect of these scenarios on the area. So around week 3, they were completely everything was completely going very quickly. Once the actions were implemented in the platform, it was very easy to create a report and to do the analysis. And during that time, they had to work on their own. They used a lot. They asked a lot of questions on the community forum, and they received, of course, a lot of response from the Tygron team. And that's something, if you're using the platform on your own, that could really be very handy. And you can find the report also in the manual, the full report, and read more about what they have done specifically. So anyway, we compiled this use case based on the students' experience. So we asked the students, what would you have done differently? And they said that learning the platform was a bit challenging over 4 weeks. It was possible, but it was very challenging. So perhaps if you want to design a course that is has to do with this kind of work, then maybe make it a bit longer, like at least 1 more week, so 5 weeks would be good. And to also have some lectures or tutorials about Tygron, perhaps choosing a smaller area so that it loads better into the laptop. And they also thought that working offline would be better, especially if you are working in a group, which is very normal. And they also said that involving real stakeholders did get them really excited because they thought that, oh, this could actually be implemented. So yeah, that was it, and they managed to do it within 4 weeks. So if you have 5 weeks, it would be even better. Now this would be the last use case, and it is a bit different. It is for using Tygron for decision making and governance. And this is a course that's called Scenario Building for Sustainable Cities, as part of the Masters of Urban Management and Development, the climate change track at IHS, Institute for Housing and Urban Development Studies at the Erasmus University. So actually for a few years now, IHS has been using the Tygron platform as a scenario building tool within its urban management tools for climate change short courses, which I attended also 2 years ago. And during this course, usually the Tygron support team joins the students for half a day to guide them on playing the climate game. However, last year, 2019 and 2020, the IHS team decided to experiment by designing their own course with the Tygron platform. And it was first given for 15 students as an elective, and this year they implemented it fully as part of a mandatory course for this specialization. So it is targeted for international students that come from very different backgrounds, and of course they do not have any prior knowledge of Tygron or any other geodesign platform, but they are expected to have some sort of knowledge in decision making. The course is small; it's 4.5 days, and then the students are expected to learn planning and decision making in a multi-stakeholder environment. I think Naomi from IHS is here. Naomi, are you there?
Yeah, hello.
Hi, Naomi. Naomi was a lecturer assistant and she was involved in this course this year. Could you please share with us your experience of creating your own game with Tygron for the students?
Yeah, so the idea was to create a fictional case study. So as I'm from France, I thought that we could take the case of Paris. And there is a project developed in Paris which is called Greening the Champs-Élysées. And to enlarge the different possibilities for this project, we decided that we will not just focus on the Champs-Élysées Avenue and not just green the space, but offer different opportunities in terms of construction in the game. And for that, so the students were working in groups and they had to reproduce a multi-stakeholder environment that could respond to this project. So they had to think about who could be the stakeholders and what could be the actions for the stakeholder, the objectives. And through doing that, they learned, they first had an understanding of like climate change effects, and then who could be the different stakeholders and what were their responsibilities in this kind of project, urban development project. So yeah, I think they were really, I think the power of Tygron is like really to educate people so they learn through doing this exercise. And they also learn, I think, the power of collaboration to achieve certain objectives. So here there were several objectives and it enables them to overcome, the personal interest that stakeholders can have in real life. So, for example, real estate agents do not have the same interest as municipalities, but to achieve some objectives, you have to find a certain level of collaboration. So I think that's really powerful, yes.
Thank you, Naomi. Can you also share how your experience was in creating your own game? You had no previous experience with Tygron, right?
No, yeah. So for me, it was maybe a bit long to, familiarize myself with it because I was doing some other stuff, and but it was really interesting, and I really appreciated, all the tools and the that you were really available to reply your answers on our questions. So yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, it took a lot of time because just to know how it works and then how to apply an idea in real life in a fictional environment. So yeah.
Thank you, Naomi. Basically, Naomi mentioned that she relied a lot on our wiki, and she also created, along with the main lecturer, who's Somesh Sharma, they created the presentations to take the students step by step on exactly what to do in the multi-stakeholder session. And that also could be found on the manual. So you can find the presentations there, you can download them, you can go through them. So the last thing is that they had a bit of challenges related to data availability because they were working on something that's not in the Netherlands. However, they managed to make it happen. There's sometimes problems with the Apple Mac laptops sometimes, and that doesn't always happen, but it's because the IHS team has worked with Tygron before in group settings. They had to ask the teams to consider that while they were grouping each other. So that is something that should be taken into consideration if you have students in the classroom who have Apple Mac laptops. They would recommend a bit of more time for the assignment if possible. If not, then this 1 week is completely fine. And they also thought that maybe involving a real stakeholder or organizing, like choosing a reachable location would be nice, because then you can organize an excursion to the location, which could be, in this case, also interesting for the students. Yeah, and also giving more time for the group formation would be useful. I think that sums it up for the use cases that I've selected. And now maybe I can mention, before I wrap up, that each use case is very different. I didn't have the time to mention everything about the use cases, but you can also find that out on the manual. We will be constantly upgrading this manual and uploading more use cases. So if you want to integrate the Tygron platform in your curriculum, then please visit our EDU manual. You can find it here on support.tygron.com under the Getting Started section. And then you can scroll through the use cases. And if you are someone who already integrated the platform in your courses, then please contribute to our manual. We would be happy to feature your use case on the manual. It will take you no longer than maybe an hour or two. You just have to fill up a template that we already have there, and then we would organize a 1 hour session, just like an interview to get even more details, and that would be it. So it's not a lot of time to invest. Hansje, would you like to add something else?
Yes, Katia, first of all, thank you so much for this contribution to the EDU community, because I think this manual can help a lot of institutes to start working with the platform, get inspired throughout the year, not only during this annual event. So thank you so much for that. I think it is true what you mentioned, that the cases are quite diverse, and I think that is also it is the power, the strength of the Tygron platform, but it's also the weakness, because I think people can get lost in all the options that are available. I see it so many times, people who see the platform and think, oh my God, then I can do this as well. Maybe I can do that as well. So I think this manual can really help you focus on the learning objectives. That is why we took those as the starting point for creating this manual, those learning objectives, and from there out help people to set up it, using the platform in their curriculum. So on this manual, we have not only these use cases available, but also the template you mentioned. I just wanted to go to this manual real life. So I'm gonna share my screen again. And let me see that I get the manual over here. Like you said, Katia, you can find it on the main page in the Getting Started section. When you go there, you see information about the manual itself. You see the questions that you can answer to help you integrate it in your curriculum. And also all these use cases that Katia presented to you are can be seen over here. Just let me open one to give you an example of all the information available. This is set up in a way that we try to share this information for you, not only to be inspired, but also maybe to help you including this as a sort of template in your curriculum. So you don't have to think of new use cases yourself. Maybe you can even adapt one of these use cases that are already have been done So we also try to provide learning materials that are designed specially for these use cases, like presentations maybe. I know that in this scenario building use case from Naomi and Somesh, they have shared their presentations with us as well. So yeah, a call to action from us to you as our EDU community is to help us fill this manual throughout the year by using this template Katia mentioned. It's over here at the bottom of this page. Please just go to this template, and then you can download this file that Katia presented that can help you using the manual for a new course. And yeah, help
Hansje, can
us.
I mention something?
Sure.
Also,
sure.
sometimes the manual isn't completely, the template isn't completely applicable, so it's okay. I had to sometimes customize it to, for instance, scientific research. It wasn't a course, so I had to change the questions a bit. But if you want to contribute, then just reach out to us, and then we can also set up an interview, and that could just take you a bit of your time.
Yes, exactly. We really would like you to give us feedback when you use this template, so we can make it more applicable for all educational institutes. Again, you can do so much with the platform, so that is also for us quite complicated to provide you guys with a template that suits all the needs from all different backgrounds and institutes. But yeah, well, this is a start that we present to you this day today, and yeah, please help us filling this out throughout the year. And like Katia said, we want to provide to you the extra service of planning this meeting where we can help you finalize the template and integrating it into the courses. So, well, it's really nice to say, okay, we have this manual and we can start using this. But then when you start, you want the students to get a hang of using the Tygron platform. So we also created this Tygron learning part on the wiki. So let me go to our Tygron learning part. We do have a lot of learning materials available, and if you don't find the answers here on how to use the Tygron platform, we also have our Tygron forum where we can answer all kinds of questions, not only by us as the Tygron support team, but also by other users of our community. So here we combined all the learning materials we have available. And for example, we provide videos, video tutorials, written tutorials, demo projects that you can use where you can start developing your skill sets, also how-tos, how to make use of a specific item for the Tygron platform. We have practices, so you can really challenge yourself and make this check. Did I really understand how I can use the platform? And also we share like presentations of specific subjects. So we divided this in a couple of sections. To start with the basics and advanced skills, here you can really practice the getting started part. how to create a new project, things like that. We also have some domain management, always very important, especially version control is really relevant for students to when they start working with the Tygron platform. Max also mentioned it, that there's no undo button, so I always advise start working with version control. So yeah, all the information really relevant for you as a user, but also maybe for you as the lecturer who is providing this course to the students. Domain management is also relevant for you. Knowing to find where to find these learning materials to help your students get up to speed is also very, yeah, I think it's very handy. So we have made we divided it in like these profession roles. So for example, the GIS specialist. So here you can find, I will show you an example, all the materials related to working with the Tygron platform on a GIS basis. So import, export geodata, and yeah, we provide like these tutorials, videos, the presentation, for example. So that is really interesting to take a look at, I think. Maybe even in your course, you want to combine these skills. So make use of the geo import functionality, but then you want to make analysis about water. So then maybe you would also take a look at the hydrologist page and maybe use like a demo project. I also know that the demo bridge project, for example, is being used by Jappe from Avans to let the students get introduced by with the Tygron platform. And he created some assignments with some questions for the students to figure out, to see if they really understand what they are doing. Of course, you can follow some steps within the tutorial, but do you really understand what you're doing? So that is also, yeah, a simple way of how you can start using the materials we provide in your curriculum. I think it's really nice to mention, and that is related to the case of Robert Jan that Katia presented, is that the API is becoming available this year. So has become available this year. So we will also soon will include like this technical professional role. So for the more technical students, we also provide a challenge there now. And let me see. Yeah, the last thing I wanted to mention before we continue is that I think it's really nice. Naomi mentioned that she had quite a hard time of translating the real use case to the Tygron platform. And Joseph Pueyo is also mentioning that and getting more into how he did that in the final presentation of today. So I think that is a really nice teaser for later on. I'm not sure if there maybe is a question, because we do have time for one question before we go to another presentation. Maybe is there somebody who wants to share a question? I don't see anybody raising their hand, but
we have two questions. One is from Jappe. It says, is there a specific reason why you cannot save measures in future design?
Let me see. Well, it depends a little bit on if you have a timeline project or a planning project. maybe it's a little bit technical to explain, but I will share a link on the recap page as well. When you have a timeline project, then the measure you take in the future design is actually built. So then it will be possible to save that future design. But when you have a planning project, which is 9 out of 10 projects, the measure is not actually built in your baseline project, so to say. So therefore, then it's not possible to save. But you do have quite some save options for future designs. So please let me share a couple of links about that in the recap of this event.
And we have another question from Nick. He says, I'm new to all of this, but how is the integration with ArcGIS Pro, for example?
Okay, well, thank you, Nick, for your question. Well, I think it is maybe nice to get back to that after the presentation of the students of from Larensteijn and Willemijn, because they will give, I know that, an example of how they make use of the ArcGIS Pro. So maybe we can come back to that after the next presentation. I will write it down so we do not forget. Yeah, well, I think then I want to give the stage to our next presenters. I went over all these things. Mike Schampers, Aukje Verheijen, and Willemijn Rossen are here to share with us their group assignment about urban water management. And yeah, well, I think I will just give the stage to you guys and come back to other things later on.
Yes, thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. So first of all, I'll start sharing my screen. And I would like to start with introducing myself and Aukje and Willemijn. So my name is Mike. I'm a third-year student at the University of Applied Sciences of Larensteijn. Aukje?
Yes, my name is Aukje Verheijen, and I'm also a third-year student at the Bachelor Land and Water Management at the University van Larensteijn.
And Willemijn, could you introduce yourself as well?
Yes, I can. My name is Willemijn Rossen, and I work at the Water Board of Zuiderzeeland. Yes, and I will...
Yes. Thank you. So today we'll take a closer look at the case study we were given by the Water Board. And to do so, we'll have a story map. And this story map is based on what we've done with Tygron and how we made a link in ArcGIS. So today we'll take a look at the case itself. How did we do a climate stress with Tygron? We'll discuss some of the scenarios we built and some other solutions to the climate stress, some of the difficulties we experienced. How did we experience using Tygron for the first time as a modulating program? And finally, we'll hand over the presentation to Willemijn to explain why the Water Board wants and gives us this case. So first of all, as this is not something just for the Dutchies belong us, we have given a case study for climate stress. And this case study takes part in different neighborhoods of Lelystad. And Lelystad is the capital city of Flevoland, one of the provinces of the Netherlands. So I'm not sure if the map is visible for everyone at this certain point. However, we were given some different questions regarding the climate stress. So the first of all is how can we adapt certain neighborhoods to climate change? And second of all, how can we prevent flooding critical infrastructure and houses during, for example, severe rain events? And how can we advise the City Council of Lelystad and Waterboard Zuiderzeeland in a story map?
Yes, so the study is a so-called climate stress study extra large, and similar to most climate stress study, the main goal is to advise the Water Board and City Council in how to adapt the neighborhoods in Lelystad to the changing climate in the Netherlands for the next decades. But in addition to modeling the extreme weather events in Tygron, we have also looked at how we can combine our solutions with other challenges, which you can modulate in Tygron. For example, increasing the biodiversity, energy transition, improving social cohesion and sports. So how to involve residents in the process, or how can residents benefit from the climate adaptation?
Yes, so first of all, to understand how the climate will change, we'll take a look at the Dutch climate in the future. And there are several critical changes that will take part over time. So first of all, our complete climate will become more extreme. So during the summers, temperature will rise and it will become more hot. And precipitation will become more intense and severe rainfall events will occur more common. So rain events that are now once every 100 years will be every 50 years and so on. Some other climate changes will be less relevant, such as the wind speed or the sea level rise in the city. And finally, because of the climate change, our sun radiation will become a little bit higher.
Yes, we have applied Tygron to determine how much flooding and heat stress occurs in the various districts in Lelystad. To model rainfall overflow, we made a rainfall overlay of 3 different scenarios. At first, we made a rainfall overlay of 70 millimeters rainfall that falls in a time frame of 1 hour. During this rainfall, homes and gardens continue to be spared against flooding. And on the streets, there is a layer of water, which is in most places a few centimeters high, except the parking lot in the center of the project area. As you can see, this parking lot is almost completely paved. It has a profile in which water flows towards the streets. As a result, there is more than 25 centimeters of water, which can hinder emergency services.
Yes, everywhere the 25 centimeter mark is reached, the stress becomes wet.
Yes, and the second scenario is a 90 millimeter precipitation in 1 hour. During this rainfall, rainwater accumulates everywhere in the neighborhoods, and it's clearly visible that the water stress is greater than during a 70 millimeter rainfall. In gardens and on sidewalks and in houses, a layer of water can be up to 5 centimeters. In addition, the places where a few centimeters of water used to remain are now flooded. This is visible. Maybe you can watch that, but this is visible in the street to the parking lot at Botter 18 and the road between Botter 19 and Botter 13. The central parking lot is almost completely underwater, and this hinders the passage to the southern area at Botter 19. Well, the greatest water stress occurs during the third scenario, 150 millimeter rainfall in 2 hours. In this scenario, which only occurs once every 100 years, large parts of the streets are completely underwater. Not only the parking lot in the middle of the project area has more than 25 centimeters of water, but also at the peak, there is more than 25 centimeters of water on the streets. This is visible at Botter 13 and Botter 18. Yes, thank you. Well, in addition to flooding, heat stress is also an important role in the climate stress test. During the summer, it gets warmer, which affects the health of people and nature. The heat stress is a part of the climate stress test, which indicates how hot it can get in a specific place in the neighborhoods. Higher shrubs and trees provide shade and coolness. Pavement, open fields, and dark colors cause warming. When we look at the heat stress map of the district border, you can see that the streets are very warm and reach temperatures of over 45 degrees. Even a green lawn gets very hot. Due to the lack of shade, grass will burn quickly on hot days. This also applies to most gardens, which are partly petrified or do not create enough shade. The central parking lot, where trees have been felled in recent years, has also lost shade and gets warmer than 45 degrees. So the temperature in the district border differs a lot from the temperature outside the city. As can be seen in the map, it is especially much warmer in places where there is no greenery. On the streets, it is often 12 to 16 degrees warmer than outside the city. Some of the gardens and houses and the square by the cycle path also get very hot and experience great heat stress.
Yeah, so there were a lot of issues with how the water during a rain event flooded the streets, especially at some very specific parking lots. So we tried to make two different scenarios in where we combined as well as social theme as well as adapting to the future climate. And the first solution we came up with is to build a water square. And in this water square, there'll still be room for parking your vehicles. So these severe rain events only occur once every several decades. And on other occasions, we need to use this square as well, because room is just too limited to build something that only is used once every so decades. So we built a water square with large green borders surrounding the square, with room for bushes and for trees. And next to these bushes and trees, we can build hives for birds, for bees and bird boxes, boosting biodiversity in the neighborhood. And alongside this water square, we've adapted the two apartment complexes in the study area with some green roofs. And other than that, no single house or street is adjusted. So what is the difference we've calculated in Tygron? So first of all, I'd like to show you once again the design and the water stress before we adjusted, we applied our future design. So as we can see, the central parking lot is a big problem in the water stress. Now, after applying the water square and the two green roofs on the apartment complexes, as we can see on the slider, the critical water stress level is almost completely gone outside of the water square, meaning that rescue vehicles and residents have a chance to go in and outside their own neighborhood, even during these severe rain events. So I'll show you once again the difference. This is before, and this is the water level after. Note that both the legends have the same scale. So if you take a closer look at how large the difference is, at some local points we can reduce the water stress height in the streets with almost 17 centimeters. And it has an average effect of about 8 to 10 centimeters of lower water stress on the streets themselves. And there is no longer a place where rescue vehicles or other infrastructure is flooded with over 25 centimeters, meaning that the neighborhood is now safe during critical rain events. So a second scenario kind of ignores boosting the ecodiversity and combines the energy transition to adjusting to the climate change. So therefore we use solar panel parkings. Not many of these are built in the Netherlands, and we thought, how can we disconnect some parts of the streets and improve the quality of them as well? So how can we disconnect parking lots from the sewage system and connect them to the green areas, which in the current situation are higher than the street level itself? So the main advantage is that we boost the energy transition and we can make some profits by having some renewable energy. And the city council and the energy company can take the lead in this project, and residents can adopt a solar panel. Now, the reason why we chose for this particular input is a bit of the background of the Botter. The Botter is not a very wealthy neighborhood. Half of the houses belong to the housing association. So we have to assume that, given the chance, not everyone has the money to spend their entire roof on solar panels, but maybe they want to take part in it if they can just have one as a start. So this way the residents of the neighborhood can take part in the energy transition and not have the high fees and maintenance costs of having their own solar roof. So once again, we've built a slider using the output of Tygron in the before and after situation in the current and future design. So this is the current situation again, with mostly the water stress levels reaching high at the central parking lot. And if we change it to the new situation, we can see that now the water is flowing towards the green areas, and the parking lots themselves and the streets surrounding them no longer have a critical water level. So as we also can see again, if we apply the slider again, the water level changes are less significant than at the previous scenario. So at the most, it reaches a reduction of 10 centimeters and the average water reduction of just 5 centimeters. However, even in this scenario, there are no critical water stress levels reached on the streets or for the houses, meaning that even with this scenario, we are able to make the neighborhood safe for the future climate change.
Yes, and Mike just shows us great solutions, but we also wanted to share with you a few other solutions that other groups have conceived, as water permeable pavement to reduce heat stress and floods, laying sand to create a better soil permeability, installing water infiltration areas for storing and infiltrating water, blue roofs to store water, green gardens for storage and infiltration of water and reduce heat stress, garden work days to inspire people, to make them move, to bring people together and closer to nature. And we have a few images to show the solutions.
So when we started with Tygron, it was new for us, and we found out some difficulties we had in the beginning. And first one of them was that it's not possible to alter the land function and apply a levy to adjust the height. So as we can see in the picture, it's the design of our water square we placed in our first scenario. You can see it clearly by the green zone surrounding it and the different color of the street. So our solution was to alter the base model and alter the land use function there, the building, and then apply the levy in the future design. However, this made a second issue, which is that we could no longer see the complete difference between the current and future design in Tygron itself. So how did we come up with the solution? We exported from a base version and the future design of the water square and recalculated the results with Aukje. So the results of the difference in the water levels were all based in Aukje and modulated in Tygron. And the second difficulty belongs to the second scenario, and that's it was not possible to disconnect houses or parking lots from the street and connect them to a green area without disconnecting them from a certain sewage system. So we wanted to make sure that it could stay in the sewage system, and it's very difficult to do so without completely altering the base model. So it was a bit difficult for us to use it as a hydraulic function in a future design to change multiple aspects of the model at one specific spot. So how was it for us to work with Tygron? Well, first, we were very excited to work with it, as it's, well, for us as water managers, it's always fun and challenging to see something work and to see something flood and then solve the flooding issues. So it was a bit difficult at first to get to know the program, and as mentioned, there were quite a lot of tools to use, but it was fun afterwards to see how a model comes to life. Aukje, what was your experience?
Yes, I also was really excited to work with Tygron when I heard the assignment, and when you open your model, it looks really realistic, so I found it really cool. And I also found it difficult at first to work with Tygron because of the many tools. But it was definitely interesting to see too how rainwater spread over time, and how the solutions work in Tygron, and creating a more sustainable neighborhood is always a good and satisfying thing to do.
So for the final part, I would like to hand over the word to Willemijn Rossen from Waterboard Zuiderzeeland, and why we as students are involved in this case.
Yes, thank you, Mike and Aukje, for your interesting presentations. Looks very good, your story map. Yes, Hansje asked me to tell something about the assignment and how we get involved in it and why and how we developed it. First, I would like to tell something more about where I work. Like I already said in the introduction, I work at the Waterboard of Zuiderzeeland. And the Waterboard manages the system, the water system in the polders of the province of Flevoland. And you can see it on the map. We also protect the polders from flooding by maintaining the dikes around the polders, and we treat domestic and industrial wastewater. So that are the main tasks of what we do at the Waterboard. We don't operate alone. We work in close cooperation with other regional authorities, like the municipalities. We have 6 of them in our region, and the province, but we also work with NGOs and other stakeholders. Now, one of the tasks I work on is to explore how we have to deal with the effects of climate change. And like Mike and Aukje already told, due to climate change, it's getting warmer, the sea level is rising, we have to deal with more periods of extreme rainfall, and we have to deal with longer periods of drought. So for the urban areas, therefore, we execute together with the municipalities in Flevoland climate stress tests. And we do this with the help of the Tygron engine. And we find out when and where problems might occur due to climate change. And we can investigate what measures we can take to adapt to the changing climate. For executing these stress tests, we developed together with the municipalities the concept of the stress test in one day. That's how we call it. And like the word already says, in one day, we, my colleagues from the Waterboard and my colleagues from the municipalities, discuss the results of the Tygron stress test. We discuss about possible measures. And during that day, we also take our bikes and visit some of the locations in the city where problems might occur. And at the end of the day, we always presented our results of that day to the city council, so we could inform them about what we found out and discussed. During these stress tests, we found out that taking measures for climate adaptation will be most efficient if you combine it with measures for other tasks, like, for example, the maintenance of the infrastructure or the maintenance of the sewage system, or some cities have ambitions to increase the biodiversity. So that was an important conclusion. After we did the stress test in Lelystad, Florian and Hansje asked us if we want to collaborate with Van Hal Larensteijn to develop an assignment for the major water management, and an assignment that was based on the concept of the stress test in one day. And we were, and we is my colleague Anne Kok from Lelystad and we were immediately very enthusiastic about the idea. it's always nice and interesting to work with students. They are open-minded, and we can learn from their visions and their ideas. And on the other hand, we also want to give the students the opportunity to experience the work field of a municipality or a water board. And last but not least, the students also get the opportunity to learn to work with the Tygron engine. And as we, as a water board, also use Tygron in our daily work, it's always a plus that they already experience working with it, because maybe one of these students will be once one of my colleagues. So we plan to support this assignment for the next 4 or 5 years. And every year we select 5 or 6 districts in Lelystad as research area for the students. And in these districts, Lelystad has also started to plan large-scale periodic maintenance of the public-owned area, like the infrastructure and the sewage system and the green parts of the city. So the results and the ideas of the students can be input for these maintenance projects. So yeah, we try to use the output of the assignment, definitely. So this is the 2nd year we work together, and we are looking forward for next week, Thursday, and then the students present their final results to us. Yeah, then we are ending the assignment for this year, and later this year we will start to do some work to start up the next course. Okay, this was my my input. Thank you for your attention.
Yes, and on behalf of everyone presenting this, we would like to thank you for attention and listening. And if there are any questions, we're happy to answer them.
Yeah, thank you, Mike, Aukje, Willemijn. Thank you so much for your contribution. I think it's really interesting to see this example of tools that are combined, the Tygron Platform and also ArcGIS tools in the student assignment, and to see the link to the professionals. Yeah, I think that's really, really interesting. So thank you that you wanted to share this this use case with us. Let me see. I see that Nick has raised his hand. So please, Nick, feel free to ask your question.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, really good presentation and some really cool ideas. It's nice to see. As I mentioned before, I'm very interested in the interaction between ArcGIS and the Tygron platform. So I'm asking the students, if you like export something out of Tygron, does it just become a feature class that you can immediately use in ArcGIS, or do you need to transfer it into a more workable entity?
There are 2 ways we used the combination between Tygron and GIS systems. First one is that we used JSON files to load some wires and culverts into Tygron. And the second one is that we exported TIFFs, TIFF rasters and feature classes out of Tygron, which are directly able to reload in ArcGIS and ArcGIS Pro.
Nice. Duidelijk. Thanks.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
I think it's also nice to mention that we at Tygron are never finished with developing our platform. So we also have this idea push page where new ideas are pushed. And if I look at what has been developed in the past years, is the import-export functionalities and the link to the ArcGIS platform is improved a lot over the year. So we have integrated the connection from out the platform itself. So importing, exporting is really made a lot easier and is still being under development. Always. Also with other platforms, and like I mentioned before, the API functionality is also available now, so that opens a lot of new doors as well. I see Anouk also has raised her hand. Anouk.
Yes. Hi.
Hi.
My name is Anouk Berendsen, and I'm the teacher of Mike and Aukje, and I also helped develop this very cool assignment together with Willemijn and Anne. But you said that Tygron is updating and expanding their program every year, but that's also the challenge for me as a teacher. And well, the students didn't mention it, but well, of course, it's not up to them to mention it. But I would really like to share in this educational environment that for teachers, it's very challenging to keep up with all the developments. And well, I have to keep up with everything that Deltares is developing, but they are a little bit slower than Tygron. So Tygron is really fast with releasing new functionalities, and we have always have the update in March. And sometimes I think it's a little bit difficult for us that we cannot use an older version. For example, the version that we use this year for the project of next year, and we have to update our manuals, etc. And we have to check every step that we described in the tutorial that we made for this specific project. So it's a lot of work for me, for us as teachers, to keep up with all the developments. So sometimes I wonder if maybe it's possible, maybe for us as teachers to get like a steady state for 2 or 3 years. So I think you know what I mean. I see Hansje nodding. So well, maybe I don't know if that's possible, but sometimes I wish there was like a steady state version that we can use for about 3 years maybe, and then in 3 years I'll do another course with you, and then hoppakee, I can redevelop a manual together with other users, and then use that again for 3 years.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
And the short version answer is at this moment it's not possible to make use of a steady state version. But I understand your point, and I really want to thank you for sharing this because then we know that this is a challenge for you guys, and we can think about maybe a different solution to tackle these problems. So
I see Mariem typing, it's the life of the lecturer. It's true, but well, I'm a teacher at several different hydrologic modeling programs, so it's a lot of work to keep up with all the developments. So well, and that's my personal frustration sometimes.
Yeah,
I don't have the time to keep up with all the developments.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing, Anouk. It really helps us to know what is a challenge for you guys, or what are the plus sides, so we can take that into account. So thanks. Looking at the time, I really want to go to the presentation of Bart and Reijn because we are running out of time a little bit. So please let me share my screen again, and let me see, is this working out? Yes. As I said, Reijn is going to tell more about his internship assignment that he did during his internship at Tygron, and is in collaboration with Aveco de Bondt. In this case, Bart unfortunately was not able to join us live. So he recorded his presentation, and I will start this recording in a bit. He did agreed on answer questions for him personally. So if you do have a question based on what he is presenting, please feel free to put it in the chat. So we can forward it to Bart and he will get back to it and we will include it in the recap page of this event. So like I said, I will start the presentation and then after that Reijn is also presenting his part.
Hi, hello, my name is Bart van Laatum. I work for the engineering firm Aveco de Bondt. I'm originally a hydrologist with a focus on groundwater. And from that expertise, I worked a lot on questions on well, challenges we're going to have with the changing climate, the consequences of the changing climate, or potential consequences. And that's also how I came into contact with the Tygron software. And we as a firm are very enthusiastic about the integrated approach that we can use with the Tygron software. I'm not going to talk too much about the biodiversity case. I'm going to leave that story to Reijn, but I'd like to tell a little bit about how we, as an engineering firm, how we work with interns and why they are so important to us. Well, the easy answer, and sounds a bit blunt perhaps, but the easy answer is that interns are cheap. Yeah. We mostly ask our interns to look into stuff that we don't really have time for or the budget for. This is really, well, not cutting edge software, but it's kind of new, and therefore there's not a lot of work yet for it. We have a team of about 5 people, and to do a big portion already goes to research, but yeah, it's too much if we want to do it all by ourselves. It's just not gonna work. So we need interns, and we need good interns to do the research with us. Actually, before this presentation, I calculated that we invest about 1 FTE on research done by interns. So that means that there's pretty much 1 intern year-round working full-time on researching the software. Another reason for us is that we get an honest and a scientific answer from someone who doesn't work for Aveco de Bondt or is not part of the Tygron team at Aveco de Bondt. For instance, we had a student of the University of Twente who researched the possibility to model a detention basin. It's not really important. Well, it's a basin where you can temporarily store water during a stress period, and we wanted to know if it was possible to model it in Tygron and then benchmark it on other software, on another software program, Delft3D. And Delft3D is probably the most obvious choice if you want to model something like that. And we wanted to see if Tygron could do it as well, and whether Tygron was as good or parts of it were better or worse. And if I were to research that, and the conclusion would be that Tygron is better at certain points, then it's me talking as someone who works at Aveco de Bondt with Tygron software, which is not very convincing. And it's much more convincing if the student who has to report all his work to a professor actually benchmarks this case and then tells his story. So yeah. Right. The third reason has to do with marketing or commitment of clients. As I said, it's new software. Not only is it new software, the approach is also rather new. It's a how do you call it? It's an integrated approach to problems. There's not just one question we ask. There's a bunch of questions we want to try to answer at the same time, which is kind of new. And all the governmental bodies aren't really organized in this way. They usually have one question, and they're going to answer it one way, and then they're going to combine all different questions together and then see what the best solution is. But with the Tygron software, you're capable of putting all the questions in and all the data in, and then research them, or then kind of look through the data and see if you can find a solution that works for all the different problems. And like I said, the governmental bodies aren't really organized that way, so it's difficult to sell our service or our product to clients. So if we supervise an intern together, that helps, because now not only do they see the advantages of an integrated approach, but they also kind of get their they also start trusting they should they start trusting the software. And in my opinion is that there's software out there, and it's rather difficult to say, forget the old software, get new stuff. So yes. The last reason, obvious reason, it's difficult for any firm, any engineering firm, to get motivated, intelligent people. So an intern way is a good way to do it. You not only get to attract people, but it also gives you the time to assess them and see if they fit your team or fit your company. And in the case of Reijn, well, he's now on a he has a contract now at Tygron, so that's a good example. Starting as an intern and now working for Tygron. But we also have a couple of interns working for us now. So yes. What kind of assignments do our interns do? It's mostly research. It depends, of course, on what we're working on, what we're working on ourselves, and whether the student is doing a practical period, like in his third year, or if he or she is in her or his last year doing the graduation assignment. But it usually has to do with researching modules in Tygron for our own for the own questions we have or the chances we see in the market. Well, to give you a couple of examples, our interns looked into the water test and Watertoets. I'll forget about it. It's rather complicated to tell you that in English, but it's a Dutch instrument government used to assess the way water is taken into account when drawing up spatial plans and decisions. The detention basin, probably a good example, which I talked about earlier. We had a girl who looked into the different parameters of runoff, of surface water, the roughness coefficient, the salvage coefficient, that kind of stuff. Well, the possibilities to model rivers in Tygron, we looked into that as well. And currently we have 2 students who are looking into the pros and cons of calculating an entire water system in Tygron. Well, so it's very diverse, but the main focus is on research and testing the software and whether or not we can use Tygron for certain questions we think are useful. Well, and last but not least, biodiversity. Is it possible to add nature-inclusive design into Tygron? And although I've mainly focused on water, I should say that we're also working on a heat stress we're also working on heat stress and now biodiversity, and that kind of adds to the whole integrated approach to see whether certain solutions not only have an influence on, well, water stress, but also on heat stress, or perhaps on animals living in your city. So that's pretty much the story. Without wasting too much time, and now I'd like to let Reijn show us what he made in Tygron, and well, I'm very excited about it. So please, Reijn, take it away.
All right, I will start sharing my screen. Does everyone see the presentation? Nice. All right, I'm Reijn van Rooijen. I'm a master student, International Land and Water Management at the Wageningen University. And I was an intern at Tygron till January of this year. And during my internship, I was active in various projects. One of them was with VART, but I did other projects as well in stream restoration, in mobility friendly neighborhoods, and a lot of other stuff. I did exploratory researches for Tygron to see how certain aspects could be implemented in the software. And right now I'm a part-time employee and finishing my master thesis on the side. Yeah, so as Wart already said, the biodiversity, there was the collaboration I was active in with Aveco Bondt, the company that Wart works for. And Aveco Bondt came with the question to Tygron, how can we implement biodiversity in the program, since Aveco Bondt is very active in green building, so including nature and living friendliness with the neighborhood, and especially focused on new neighborhoods. And yeah, they wanted to see how the translation could be made from biodiversity to the platform. Therefore, I made two cases focused on existing neighborhoods, but nonetheless relevant. The first case was the case of Blijswijk. This is a Dutch greenhouse region. I will give an example of that in the Tygron platform as well. And the other case was in Wageningen. That was my first case with seeing how biodiversity could be implemented in the platform, and trying out the different methods I used. So that brings me to the methods. How could biodiversity be implemented in the platform? The first thing I thought of was the boundary conditions. How can I translate biology to data, or biology to the Tygron platform? For example, when an ecologist says you need big trees for I don't know, eagles, what do they mean with big trees? Are those trees of 5 meters or trees of 10 meters? That kind of things had to look into, and sometimes make a bit of assumptions, but when you looked hard enough, it most of the information was there. And what I said, how do you translate the biodiversity to the platform? I used two different ways. Therefore, I used panels, as you all, everybody that probably is familiar with the platform knows, and the indicators, and they can be used independently, but also complementary of each other. The first case, the little owl, or in Dutch, the steenuil. It's important to consider thereby that the little owl has to be placed in an area that's already partly suitable for the little owl. You can't place a big deer in the center of Amsterdam. That's not going to work. So you have to think about, does the surrounding already has suitable or partly suitable conditions for the little o? And then, as I said, you start looking on the boundary conditions. So what is necessary? And thereby I also took a big example at success stories where the little o was successfully reintroduced in the Netherlands, and yeah, looked into what the methods and the measures were taken there. So yeah, I used a lot of information of Bij 12. This is the Dutch Provincial Knowledge Center of Wildlife. And then I selected a neighborhood, and that was the neighborhood in Wageningen. Till a year ago, that was my hometown where I lived as a student. And yeah, so I wanted to make the area there suitable for the little o, and thereby keep in mind to maximize neighborhood participation. So involve yeah, inhabitants or local civilians to make the area suitable for the little o, and see what they can do to sustain the o, and thereby sort of be more concerned or more yeah, active in the preservation of nature and the biodiversity. Yeah, that was the case of the little o. The next case is that I will show as well in the platform was the house sparrow, or in Dutch the huismus. And that's yeah, something that was inspired on a question of Ward, actually. Like, yeah, the house sparrow is a sort of a key species. So when a neighborhood can sustain a house sparrow, it can probably also sustain other little birds, which is, yeah, nice for the biodiversity, and also something that, yeah, speaks to people's minds. Like, yeah, that's a very clear example. So that's where I also, yeah, thought about the integral measures. How can we promote the house sparrow, but also use beneficial measures that could be good for the neighborhoods in other ways, such as what an example what earlier was with the heat stress. So implement more green in the neighborhood, and also think about the role of inhabitants. As you can see on the picture, for example, the roof tiles with a small nest location in it, which is sparrow friendly. And then yeah, was also the bees, also yeah, a key species for biodiversity, and yeah, thereby the area we used was also a sort of pilot project for another project, which wanted to yeah, promote the biodiversity. And Blijswijk is an area that has a lot of greenhouses, so a bigger amount of bees in the area is also good for the greenhouses there, because it's the natural pollinator, of course. And normally greenhouses pay to get bees in their greenhouse. So how nice is it if the area has a bit more bees? Yeah, so I will show you what I did. So this is the area. As you can see, these are all greenhouses, and this is Blijswijk, the city. So first, what I did was, yeah, look into the house sparrows. Therefore, I made a panel, a house sparrow panel of huismuispaneel, and I added yeah, different measures that can all be placed. And so first of all, placing the nest locations in the area. And as you can see, the conditions change. So the area is now yeah, suitable for the nesting, but not on the other point that I got from the literature. So they also need a sandbox, and the sandbox is nice for children, but also for house sparrows to get rid of parasites. So you can see the sandbox is implemented in your area. And a third one is the Hydera. The Hydera is a plant that is green year round and is a nice hiding location for the house sparrow. And as you can see, I also made a bee indicator for the bees. And the bee indicator is also going up. That's because the Hydera is also a plant that is rich in nectar at the end of the year. So when most of the flowers are not blooming anymore, the Hydera can still provide nectar for the bees. And as you can see, the panel is now saying that the area is all right on all the conditions. So it's a suitable area for the huismus. And yeah, by showing that to inhabitants, you can maybe create a bigger acceptance for biodiversity measures. Yeah, and the second one was the bees, as I said. So I implemented a Dutch initiative in the area. That's the Baron Bloeit, or the verge is blooming. So placing flowers next to the roads, and implemented that. And then you can, I made an overlay as well, the biotope, and biotope shows the areas that are now sort of sustaining green, so and a lot of flowers, so the bees can thrive there. And as you can see, the Hydera that we made in the Vogelbuurt, where the house sparrow measures were taken, is also taken into account, which is another example of the integrality of the Tygron platform. Yeah, and that was a small example of the biodiversity case. And of course, you also have to think about the future. What can we do more about biodiversity in the platform in the future? And you can think about how species can influence each other. For example, birds of prey as a rodent control. With the positive and negative feedback loops. Or another example, which is very suitable for the Netherlands, is the Eikenprocessierups. It's a pest or a plague. It's very annoying for the people in their surroundings, which can easily be predated by small birds such as the house sparrow. So that's our nice challenges to think about for the future. And that was the biodiversity in Tygron in a nutshell. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Reijn and Bart, for your contribution. I'm really interested if there are any questions, but looking at the time, I think we have to take the short break and get back to the event for the final presentation. So if you do have questions, please put them in the chat. Reijn, maybe you can look at the questions during the break as well, and otherwise during the presentation of Josep. And then, like I said, at the end we have now shorter moment for the Q&A. So we also have time to get back to questions later on. So thank you so much. I think this was a great example of internship assignment. You can see that you really have reached some depth within using the Tygron platform, and I think that's really cool. And I'm also very happy that we have seen an example in the platform itself now. So leave it with that for now, and let's get back at 4:05. I will share my screen again, and let me provide the slide with a small clip for the ones who do stay at their desktop or laptop. And for the other ones, see you back at 4:05. Thank you.
So dit is a project in Utrecht in the Netherlands. And you see these two icons here. Yeah. At the top of the screen, you see these 5 indicators. I'm sorry, this is in Dutch, but it's a Dutch project. So these are indicators for noise, disturbance, the amount of green, water, air quality, and density, population density. And these indicators, except for the density one, are also in this chart. And the water in this area is now very low, and the other indicators, they score very well. So the idea is that maybe someone wants to create a new neighborhood here. In future design, we have a new button parametric design. And you can create a new neighborhood. So you can create a road aligned or spaced design. This is a road aligned one. And then you see at the right all these parameters for the amount of roads, amount of buildings, parking spaces, green, public green, and water. So I can change the percentages. And you can choose the different functions. And there are other parameters for the width of the road and size of parking space. And then when I click on Generate Design, the platform tries to fit all these functions in this area. And this is what the planning came up with. Below you can see a pie chart of the distribution of the functions and the area. And then I can apply this design. Then the test run will start. And now I've created a new neighborhood here. So now I can see how this plan scores on these indicators. And I see that the noise is not a 10 anymore, but it's now a 6 because of the new roads here and the new traffic. So this is a project in Utrecht in the Netherlands. And you see these two icons here. Yeah. At the top of the screen, you see these 5 indicators. I'm sorry, this is in Dutch, but it's a Dutch project. So these are indicators for noise, disturbance, the amount of green, water, air quality, and density, population density. And these indicators, except for the density one, are also in this chart. And the water in this area is now very low, and the other indicators, they score very well. So the idea is that maybe someone wants to create a new
Hello, everybody. I'm back. I have stopped the video now. I hope everybody finds its way back to the event for the last presentation of our, let me see that I...
Neighborhood here.
Oh, sorry. Our final presentation is done by Josep Pueyo from the Catalan Institute of Water Research. He is working on creating a, creating a serious game where he really, makes use of a multi-stakeholder use case. And I think I asked Joseph to do a presentation because he is located in Spain. He did not have a training. So he really figured out himself, based on our learning materials, how to work with the Tygron platform. So he will share some information on how he translated this use case towards the platform and what he did to get the hang of using the Tygron platform. So I really would like to share his presentation with you, and then we have time for some questions.
Hi, good afternoon. First of all, I want to say thanks to the Tygron team to invite me. It's an honor to be here to explain my experience using Tygron and how I learned to use that. I'm Josep from the Catalan Institute for Water Research. I'm working on the EDICINET project, which is a European Union Horizon 2020 about urban agriculture. And within that, I'm developing a serious game to showcase the. First of all, I want to talk about my background because I think it's important to understand my self-learning process with Tygron. I'm geographer, so I'm quite proficient using geographic information systems, which have been very important to build a city model in Tygron and to use that to calculate indicators. And I'm also quite confident in using Excel and in using different programming languages. And Excel, as well as HTML language, which is the language of the websites, are quite important in Tygron, basically to customize indicators, because you need to use Excel, but the Excel is returning HTML code to Tygron, so this is important. And also some basic skills about SQL language, because the Tygron query language is quite similar to SQL. So if you have the foundations, it's also very important. And of course, obviously, having self-learning predisposition, which is the most important skill to be a self-learner or to learn how to handle with Tygron without any training. This is the project where we are developing our serious game using Tygron, the Edible Cities Network project, which is about fostering edible city solutions, which are like a kind of nature-based solutions, but with a food production component. And the idea is use these edible city solutions not only for green the city, but also for social resilience and to improve the social cohesion in cities. Since urban gardens and urban agriculture, we think, are a proper tool to improve these kind of things in cities, because there are spaces not just to pass, like a city park, or to use, but also to stay and to create, and to creating community. especially when we talk about community urban gardens, for instance. And within that project, we are developing the Edible City game, which is a serious game that has the main goal to showcase the benefits of Edible City solutions. And when we talk about benefits, we talk about a lot of different kinds of benefits. For instance, reduce the heat island effect in cities, but also create jobs, or helping to food sovereignty, or increasing the public participation to the volunteers that are involved in urban gardens, and so on. So this is the main goal of the Edible City game that we are developing using Tygron. And specifically, we decided to determine, to specify 4 learning goals that has to be achieved playing in the Edible City game. 2 goals are linked to the experimentation through the game, that is implementing Edible City solutions, analyze the scenarios, try different scenarios, and these kind of things. And these 2 learning goals are the showcase the main urban challenges that the cities are facing and how they can be measured through the indicators that we implemented. And another goal linked to the experimentation is to understand how different Edible City solutions address these urban challenges. So, for instance, I want to address the heat island effect. I have to build a community garden, ground-based, or it's better if I construct a hydroponic urban garden, for instance, or it's better if I implement that on ground, in a rooftop. These kind of things, it's the ones that the player should experiment playing the Edible City game. And the other is to generate debate around the game, because the game is meant to be played by an end that we call city teams, which is a group of people interested in Edible City solutions in their city. Sorry. And how, so we want that they empathize with other stakeholders that have different interests in their cities. For instance, I don't know, the tourism sector have one interest, a cooperative of consumers can have another different interest, and we want that they debate, they empathize with each other, and finally that help them to reach consensus about the strategies in their city to implement Edible City solutions. For that, we implemented several indicators in the Edible City game based on the urban challenges that arise from another European project, which is Eclipse, and they decided that the main urban challenges that are facing European cities are these 10. And then we estimated, or we calculated indicators to measure components of that urban challenges. For instance, we use 2 indicators that are already implemented on Tygron, that are heat island effect and water storage capacity. But we also customize several more indicators. One is distance to public green areas. Another is NO2 sequestered by urban green. Volunteers involved in Edible City solutions, amount of green per capita in the grayest neighborhood, because this is about social justice, and jobs created in Edible City solutions related to economic opportunities. In addition, we also create another indicator, which is food sovereignty. And after a workshop we did to test the game, we saw that we needed some indicators to compete for the land with these that are the main indicators. Then we created an indicator about green social housing, which is the amount of social housing closer to green areas to deal with green gentrification. And another is solar panels installation, a very important issue nowadays with climatic emergence. But at the same time, it is competing for the space available on rooftops with the gardens. So this is interesting because we added competition for the land and for the space on roofs. Another important thing is how we build the city model. We use for sure the sources that are predefined on Tygron, OpenStreetMaps and Esri databases, but then we added, we use the national cadastre information to build for buildings. So we erased the buildings from OpenStreetMaps and created our own buildings from the cadastre. And also we use some municipality open data like public green areas, street trees, the neighborhoods, and socioeconomic data, for instance, the unemployment in a neighborhood or this kind of data that are used in indicators. The actions that we implemented in the game, basically we can divide into groups. The construct actions to construct new buildings. Then you can construct edible city solutions on ground. You can construct social housing and you can build city parks. And the other group is upgrades. We can upgrade buildings to have edible city solutions on rooftop. We can upgrade buildings to have solar panels. You can upgrade trees from trees to fruit trees and convert any street of the city in an edible street. So the street then becomes a urban garden and the transit is cut off and so on. A part of this, we already have the typical actions about buying, selling land, messages, inbox, demolish, and these kind of things. Finally, the characters we implemented are, we set two types of sessions. Single player sessions, especially thought be played by practitioners of the municipality, that there are only one character, which is we call super planner, because it has full powers and owns everything. So there are no limits in the actions they can do in the city. And in multiplayer sessions, we did a workshop to decide the characters that are basically this: a municipality, a neighbors association, ecology's NGO, a small organization of small and medium enterprises, a consumers cooperative, the social sector, the education sector, and tourism promotion. And all of these characters have different actions, different budgets, and different assignments. That is a different set of indicators that they have to achieve. So this is interesting because we are adding competition and this kind of things. Another interesting thing are the levels. We implemented 3 levels on Tygron that are meant to add complexity to the game through each level. Each level adds new actions and new indicators to each player. So in the first level, that we call getting familiar, each character has very few actions and only 1 or 2 indicators to achieve, to improve. Then in the second level that we called land scarcity, the storyline is about land on ground is become scarce, so you need to start to explore using the roofs of the city, and then some actions like upgrading buildings to buildings with gardens on rooftop and upgrade and installation of solar panels and the things that goes on rooftops are activated, and also the more indicators for each character. And finally, the third level, it's called Let's Work Together, and then then all the players have activated all the indicators, so all of them have the same assignments. And the idea of this level is that they have to cooperate, because they have to improve all the indicators, but they can do all the actions. So they have to cooperate each other to complement their efforts and their actions to improve all the indicators. Okay, after this brief introduction to the game that we are developing on Tygron, this is an ongoing process. I want to reflect, because this is what Tygron asked me to do. How did I learn to use Tygron without any formation, without any training? No. So, and I reflect how I did that, and basically these 5 messages to take home are the most important. The first one is the first thing I think is to read the wiki pages. I read the wiki, almost all of them, and I went again and again anytime I have a doubt, and this was my main source of knowledge to how to deal with Tygron, but also the video tutorials. But to complement, not to learn in first instance, because I think the background of the wiki is very important to take advantage of the video tutorials after. Another thing that I advise would be to make a lot of mistakes. So I tried a lot of indicators that didn't work. I tried a lot of ways of importing data or creating overlays that didn't work, but it doesn't matter, because in any mistake, I learned something new. I learned about the possibilities of Tygron, but also about the limitations of Tygron, and this is the way I could move forward. Another very, very important thing is the forum. I think the forum of Tygron is a really great tool. Don't be afraid to be tiresome. I've been, I still am, and it's awesome because I have a doubt, I ask on the forum, and somebody from the Tygron team asks me, we discuss about that, we suggest some solutions to my problem, and that's wonderful. So this is for me, once you know how Tygron works, the forum is the main tool for sure. And another advice that I would give to you is to create many small projects. So most of functionalities in Tygron works the same with small projects and with big projects. But with the small projects, the calculations are faster, your computer is going lighter, and this is the way you can explore, you can create, you can try, you can test, you can make mistakes faster than if you are trying to do that on big projects. So this would be my 5 take-home message. And we can further discuss that in the questions if you want. And finally, another thing I would like to show you is the framework or the guidelines we created in the first step, that when we decided to create a serious game, because I never created a serious game before, so I went to the literature, to the scientific literature, to know how people that design serious games, what they do, and I create myself this framework, which is divided in 3 main steps. The first step, the yellow one, is the learning scenario definition, when you ask yourself about who will be the players, what are the learning goals, which will be the environment, it will be multiplayer, single player, face-to-face, online, these kind of things. Then the second step is the design, the properly said design of the game. So what will be the game typology? So then we decided that Tygron fit on what we want. So yeah, we want to use Tygron. The serious content about what indicators, what model of the city, which kind of actions. No, sorry, which kind of actions, it's games mechanic, but the serious content, basically indicators and the city model, all that is scientific soundness, to say. The games mechanics, which is the actions, the rules, the budgets, all the things that are the game, the gamification part of the serious game. And finally, which data I need to do that. And then comes the first question you have to do: is the data available? So if it isn't, I have to come back to my serious content and change things to adjust that to the data requirements, because if I don't have the data, I can implement the serious content that I designed. And then the third part is the game evaluation. So this is the flows of information from the game to the players, but also to the players, to the facilitator or to the designer, and these kind of things, in order to improve the game after after sessions that we play. So for instance, we can ask, are the planet scenarios better addressing the urban challenges? And if not, maybe our learning methods are failing, or the data that is shown to users. And another question could be, did the users enjoy the session? Did the users understand the game? If not, maybe the game's mechanics are not properly working because the game is too difficult or too simple, or I don't know. Did the users learn about edible city solutions and urban challenges? Again, we can ask about the serious content, or we can ask about the game evaluation layer if they are working, the data feedback to users if they are working. And finally, did the users understand the different stakeholders' interests in the city? Did the users collaborate among them? These kind of things. And if not, we can go back to our learning methods, to our game typology, and review what we did and what did fail. And another approach that I like it and helped me to design this iterative framework is the mechanics dynamics aesthetics framework that I found in the scientific literature, which is about how the games are designed. For instance, so in this framework, they tell that the designer look at the mechanics of the game, which are the objects, the rules, and these kind of things, while the end user, the players, look at the aesthetics, how they perceive the game. Is funny, is interesting, these kind of things. And the mechanics and aesthetics interact in the dynamics of the game. So once the players have played, the designer have to get feedback from the aesthetics and from the dynamics and redesign the mechanics to fulfill the expectations of the players. And this helped me in this process of designing, playing, designing, and any session, a new version of the game arose. And this is, well, that helped me, maybe can help you. And that's all. Thank you. I'm here. Thank you for listening me.
Yes, thank you, Joseph. Let me share my screen again with our presentation. Yeah, well, we came to the Q&A part now. We don't have that much time left, but maybe there is somebody who has a very interesting question for Joseph, maybe, based on what you have seen now. I'm not sure if somebody tries to unmute himself. Well, I do have a question for you, Joseph. I was wondering who is going to play this game?
Yeah, this game is supposed to be played by a group that in the project we call city teams, which are a group of urban stakeholders like neighbors, but also people representing small and medium enterprises, or people from the municipality, that all of them make a group of people interested in urban agriculture. Essentially, it's that, but it's a group of people interested in urban agriculture in the city that is part of the project. So they are already assembled in the project and doing another workshops a part of the game.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, I want to wrap up this event then, I think. I want to thank everybody who joined this event, and especially our guest speakers. I do hope that we have give you a good idea of what we have done with your input from last year's event, like I mentioned at the beginning. I am aware that this year the input request is not that much in this event itself, but my question to you, my call to action to you guys still stands. Please try to use the template of the EDU manual. Please make use of our learning materials and give us the feedback throughout the year. Make use of our offer to plan a consultation hour with you guys in helping you making this integration of the Tygron platform in your curriculum. So hopefully next year we have a lot of new use cases we can share with our community and fill this manual throughout the year even further. So thanks again. One final thing, maybe you are intrigued now and you do not are using the Tygron license so far. If you want more information, you can find it on our website and contact us via email. And I want to express, if you still have questions, if you want to chat a little bit more, normally we would have like some drinks now and maybe some snacks. Sorry, I did not provide that for you guys, but I will stay here to answer more questions if you want to, and if you would like to share more of your own experience, feel free to hang out as well and have a small chat after this official goodbye. So thanks to all of you.